Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tarin. Today I'm going to be making a video regarding a PvP tier list, or at least my opinion of a PvP tier list in SWG Restoration Patch 1.1. For those of you that don't know, Patch 1.1 was a massive GCW overhaul. I'll make probably another video kind of talking more about what is in 1.0 or 1.1 because it's a lot. It's a very big patch, the biggest patch we've had in a long time. And it's probably the biggest PvP patch we've ever had. PvP has never been more active than it is now, in my opinion. It was pretty active during the Battlefield rework a few months back, and it was pretty active when Invasions came out, but this is by far the best PvP patch I've seen so far on the server. So group PvP is a big part of the Galactic Civil War. You've got groups of rebels fighting groups of Imperials all over the place, and so you may be wondering, what should I be playing? What's good? Well, I need some idea of what I should do. My goal here today is to kind of give you guys an idea of what I think is really strong right now and what is kind of lacking, so that you can have a better idea of what you want to play. Most people that are in group PvP right now might have kind of a rough idea of what this is, but for new players coming in, or for maybe more experienced players that are looking for something new, hopefully this helps you kind of get a better idea. So the first thing you may notice is that I have A+ and A- tier. The reason for this being, I feel like professions are pretty mostly well balanced right now. You can pretty much play any of these professions in group PvP except for maybe creature handler, and be viable. I would like to say at first, as a disclaimer, my reasoning for putting different professions in the tiers that they are is not to say that those professions are bad. It's to say that builds where that profession, mastering that profession, or just that profession in general, is like the crux of the build. So let's say you're a Carbineer Commando, right? That build is not based around Carbineer. That build is based around Commando. Or if you're like Rifleman Pistolier, I'm sorry, Sniper Pistolier, that build is pretty much more about pistols. It's like pistol and snipe and then rifle stats. That's really all you're doing it for. You're not really using it for the sake of rifleman. You're using it for being like a pistolier that can use a rifle, things like that. Or like a pike, like TK pikeman, things like that, or whatever. What I'm trying to say is that my reasoning for putting things where they're supposed to go is that whatever build is like what you're building around, whatever profession you're building around, that's kind of how I'm basing it off of. Hope that makes sense. So we'll start from the top, work our way down. First profession, probably no surprise to anybody, it's going to be Commando. Commando's been pretty much S tier since 1.1, and they got the rework. I can't think of before that. Pretty much since Commando's been fixed in 1.1, it's been pretty much top tier. It just has insane utility, insane durability, and insane damage. Grenades are fantastic, stand fast is fantastic, flamethrowers are fantastic, and now heavy weapons are fixed. Heavy weapons are fantastic. Commandos are not what they used to be or what they were for a large majority of 1.1 up until like the very last couple, like towards the tail end of 1.0. They were changed to what they are now, but for most of 1.0, Commandos were a flamethrower spamming, grenade spamming, dot stacking class. They were all about stacking dots. Now they're more about using their flamethrower for utility and using their heavy weapons like rocket launchers and whatnot for big hits and AoE, big AoE. The grenades are still very important. In fact, the grenades are some of the most important aspects of group PvP. However, before you could chain a bunch of different grenades together because all the grenades had different separate cooldowns, but now all the grenades share a cooldown, so you kind of have to do one at a time. But yeah, Commando's still S tier, still fantastic, still great. Assault armor is good, riddle armor is good, flamethrower is good. Just everything about it's good. You can pair it with so many things and make it work. Pretty much most of these professions you can pair it with. Most of the range professions, at least, you can pair it with and make it work. Some are better than others, obviously, but there's a lot of versatility in what you can play with Commando. So the next profession I'm gonna say is probably S tier is where is it? Fencer. So in my last PvP tier list, I didn't really include melee because I didn't think melee was like worth putting on there. But lately we've seen a lot more hybrid melee. So melee picking up things like combat medic, combat medic heals, or like commando grenades, things like that, like a hybrid between non-melee stuff with melee for fighting. And I think that's really helped the group PvP meta for melee, and it's really helped melee find its place. Because before, when people were doing that, or before people were doing that a lot, I mean, there was always like there's a player Abraxas, he was doing it for a very long time, but most players weren't doing that for a very long time. But once people started doing that a lot more, which they're doing now, it's kind of, in my opinion, become like the main way to play melee in group PvP. It's just so good. They're just so good at that. Playstyle wise, it's very similar to a commando, but with like a melee weapon. But I'll talk about that in another video. I want to make separate videos about the different roles, but I want to talk mostly about Fencer for now. So Fencer, with this patch, it got a lot of changes, particularly Binding Strike. Binding Strike now reduces the amount of healing that a target can output by, I believe, 25% with the improved version. So this is an insane buff, as it makes Fencer sort of like, it's like a reverse Mortal Strike, if you're familiar with the term Mortal Strike from World of Warcraft. If a Fencer goes up to, like, let's say a medic or like a healer, a doctor or whatever, puts on Binding Strike, that doctor is healing for 25% less. That's 25% less on back to spray, back to toss, everything. And that is big, in my opinion. Very big. And you can just run around spreading this on different people and just be a general nuisance. And not to mention, too, he's got AoE blind, and just states in general are very strong right now. So being able to use that cone bind as well as Binding Strike, and so just generally being able to stay on top of people with like cryo grenades and things like that and keep these debuffs up. It's just, Fencer's a huge nuisance. It's very annoying to deal with. It's very strong right now, in my opinion. Next profession I want to put in S tier is probably going to be Pistolier. Pistolier is still very strong. Stopping Shot got hit pretty hard. However, it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So it's still good. Stopping Shot is good. It's not instant death like it was before most of the time. But it's still very good now. Still a very good snare. Pistolier is still probably, in my opinion, the best like secondary profession. So I know I said that the tier list was mostly being based around like these builds being the crux of your template, or these professions being the crux of your template, but I feel like I just have to put Pistolier in S tier because it's just so good as like a secondary profession. You can pretty much play Pistolier with any profession, any range profession in the game, and it will be extremely good and extremely useful. Pistolier Rifleman, Pistolier Commando, Pistolier Smuggler is even good now. Pistolier Squad Leader is great. What else? Pistolier Carbineer is still fine. Pistolier Bounty Hunter is probably the worst thing of all those, but it's still not terrible. Pistolier is just insane as a secondary profession. Not even just mastering it, just like getting bits and pieces of it. It's just so good. It gives so much accuracy. It has so much utility, so many debuffs. It has AoE. It has roots. It has, a stun, AoE stun. It's got a silence with a disarm. It's got warning shot. It's got so much stuff. It's just so good. You can just pair it with pretty much anything, and it'll just round out builds so well. So definitely want to put Pistolier in S tier. Using pistols as a weapon is still pretty bad, but Pistolier, for its abilities and its skill mods, is just off the wall. Still super good in this patch. So I'm actually gonna, this might be controversial to some, I don't know, but I'm of the opinion that I think Combat Medic is an S tier as well for group PvP. The reason being, before, Combat Medic for group PvP would have been like C tier, maybe even D tier. It was just so useless to be Master Combat Medic. Obviously, Combat Medic heals are basically required for PvP in almost any build, but I'm talking Master Combat Medic, like your focus is being a Combat Medic. And now I would say they're S tier. And the reason being, Master Combat Medic now gets healing potency at Master, so this increases their healing output by a lot. So they're healing way more than other players, as well as things such as Infect, Dots, the debuffs such as Hemorrhage being more impactful. Just all the amount of debuffs that Combat Medic can throw out are way more impactful now, even in group fights, especially with how long they take. So group PvP now takes way longer than it did before 1.1. Like the fights, they're not nearly as fast as they used to be. A lot of them last a long time. And things like Infect for battle fatigue, like the value on that goes up by so much. And now you have Combat Medic speed, both from Opportune and from the exotic, that you can use to make using these debuffs super effective, because you're not going to have to wait through a long ass global cooldown before you can use something else after using a Combat Medic debuff. So CM, very strong. You could pretty much pair it with anything and it's going to be pretty good. If you can play it in more of an aggressive role or in a more defensive role, it's up to you. Both are fine. It's just in a great spot right now. I can't really think of anything. I mean, I guess maybe not Smuggler, but you can pair it with a lot of things, even with melee, like Terras Kasi. Like you could do like TKM, MCM. It's big pain in the balls. It's a very good build. So yeah, MCM very strong right now. Definitely want to put that S tier. So now we'll move on to A+. Like I said earlier, the reason I have A+ and A- is because the builds that I put in these tiers are very close to each other. However, I just don't feel right like putting them together, if that makes sense. Like they're very close, but there's still some slight disparity between them, in my opinion. So the first time I'm putting is Bounty Hunter. Bounty Hunter got a huge buff this patch. Duelist Stance has been buffed. It gives you 10% damage reduction now, which is great. With how strong states are now, such as Dizzy, for example, reducing mind regen, Bounty Hunter states are very strong. Bounty Hunter is one of the few classes with a range blind, sorry, and it's the only range class with a Dizzy, which is very good. Confusion Shot is a great debuff. So BH is just really strong. It still gives, you know, great damage, great utility, rounds out most of the sharpshooter professions very well. Yeah, you can pair it with a lot of things. You can go BH. BH Rifles is very good right now. BH Carbs is still fine. BHSL is very viable. BHCM is very viable. BH Commando is even viable too. I mean, you wouldn't be Master BH, but you could do like a Master Commando with a bunch of boxes in BH, and it's really strong. So BH is in a great spot. The only reason I don't want to put it in S tier is because I feel like BH isn't as compatible with as many professions as these ones up here are. BH kind of like needs, in my opinion, it needs another. It can't really stand on its own. I feel like you need to pair it with something. In my opinion, I feel like you need to pair it with something that complements it well. So for example, I don't think you could play like BH and Pistolier. It's viable, but I wouldn't consider it like meta. I wouldn't really say it's very meta. So, or like BH Smuggler, you wouldn't do BH Smuggler. BH Doctor, maybe, I don't know. Now remember, this is for group PvP. For like solo PvP, BH is obviously really good because you can do like bounty missions and stuff. But for group PvP, I mean, it's really good. It's like top of A+ tier in my opinion. But I can't quite. I feel like I can't quite put it in S because I feel like it's still limited a little bit. Definitely less than these four right here and what you can pair with it. So next in A+ here, I'm gonna put, where is it? I'm gonna have to put Smuggler. Now this might be controversial to some, but I really think Smuggler is A+ tier. Smuggler got a big buff. The pistol damage, not just the pistol damage, but like the skill mods. They got a bunch of skill mods for like accuracy while moving with a pistol, critical damage and critical hit with a pistol, Smuggler has a lot of really good tools now. Overwhelming Shot has been buffed so that it works kind of the opposite of Binding Strike from Fencer, where it reduces the amount of healing that a target intakes by 20% at the improved version. So pairing this with a class like a Commando that can spread this debuff out, you know, to a group of people with a flamethrower, or pairing it with Pistolier for like a really strong dueler, like a really strong 1v1, or even, I mean, even in groups, like Smuggler Pistolier is great because you can conk shot people and still be able to put out good damage with Reckless Shot, because Reckless Shot damage was buffed, so it makes pistol damage actually really viable. Smuggler's probably, that's probably the biggest thing about Smuggler, is that Smuggler is probably the only profession in the game that makes using a pistol viable, which I think is really good. Some of their abilities were locked to pistols, like pistols only, like Reckless Shot and Last Ditch. Those two are pistol only now. However, their usage with a pistol has been much buffed. So, I mean, obviously they have Panic Shot, which is really good, but Overwhelming Shot and then their damage from Reckless Shot and Conk Shot are just great tools for a smuggler to have. The reason I'm not putting them in S tier, obviously, is because you can really only use pistols with them. I mean, you could do like flamethrower shenanigans with Overwhelming Shot, but Smuggler is definitely very limited in what you can pair with it. You can really, in my opinion, you can really only play Smuggler Commando or like Smuggler Pistolier, unless you do like some weird build where you like only get a couple boxes from Smuggler. Which you can still do. I mean, there's some like Commando builds that do that, but right now you can really realistically only go Master Smuggler with like Commando or Pistolier. So it's very limited what you compare with, but it's still very, very good. Like those are very good templates. So Smuggler, A+ tier, in my opinion. And next is Squad Leader. Obviously, Squad Leader is always going to be near the top. Everyone knows the Squad Leader. I mean, honestly, Squad Leader should probably be S tier. For group PvP, because of how mandatory it is to have in groups. I want to leave it in A+ tier though, mainly because Squad Leader, like, it got buffed, believe it or not. It got buffed in this patch. On my last tier list, I put Squad Leader S tier, like definitely S tier. But even though it got buffed, I still kind of want to leave it in A+ tier because, again, Squad Leader is really limited in what you can pair with it, in my opinion. And Master Squad Leader is like, people are starting to like not get Master Squad Leader anymore because Second Chance is like a bait. It's like, it's kind of a trap. I think, you know, I've been discussing a lot with people in my guild and people from other guilds, and I think Second Chance is kind of just a trap, like a noob trap. Like, don't, it's a PvE ability. I've never seen it in like big groups. I mean, in small groups I've seen it like definitely like help a lot, but in big group PvP, like 8v8 stuff like that, like I only ever see it wipe groups. I never see it pay off and help groups. Every time, you know, the rebels or the imps pop it, I feel like they're always just getting wiped shortly after. So I definitely don't think Second Chance is that great. But Squad Leader, obviously pretty much mandatory for group PvP. The buffs are insane. Steady Aim is nuts. Charge has been buffed now so that it breaks slows and snares and roots and whatnot, and makes you immune to them for a duration, which is really good. Tactics got a lot more value now with the accuracy changes, so the extra defense you get from tactics is actually really good. It's like having a mini COB on. Actually, I think it gives the same amount as the base novice COB, so it's basically like giving a novice COB to your whole team. And then obviously to complement that, Steady Aim, which gives like 200 accuracy, is really helpful given the accuracy changes this patch. Then obviously High Yield is still insanely good. High Yield's always going to be good. So yeah, I'm putting Squad Leader A+ tier, because it, like I said, it's still kind of limited in what you can pair with it, in my opinion. For A+ tier next, I'm gonna put Pikeman. Pikeman is still very, very strong. Before 1.1, I would have said that this is the best melee for group PvP, or just PvP in general. Pikeman's just insane. But Fencer is just, I think Fencer is just really bonkers right now. Pikeman's still very good. The AoE knockdown is still insane. AoE Intimidate, Advanced Intimidate is still fantastic. I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but I would love to have a pikeman in my group all the time for PvP. It's just so good. The reason I'm not putting it up here with Fencer is because unless you go like a hybrid route to, you know, get like cryos and things like that, pikeman has a hard time staying on top of people, and they can kind of lose uptime on some of that stuff like Intimidate and whatnot. But I also think the biggest downside to pikeman is that getting the pike line of brawler is so inconvenient that it makes it really hard to pair pikeman with a lot of other melee builds, unless pikeman really only has like 3 builds that I've seen work. You have like TK pikes, which is like a PvE build. I don't really like it in PvE that much, or PvP that much, because it has no lockdown. Got like a hybrid build. Obviously you can go like a hybrid build with like grenades, CM, pikeman, whatnot. That's still really good in my opinion. You can go like the Black Chrysanthemum build, you know, like the pikes, swords, TK, Doc thing. That's still pretty good, but that's really kind of it. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like pikes, the pike line of brawler is just so inconvenient. But it's still very good. Definitely want to put that A+ tier. So next we'll move on to A-. Like I said, these are slightly behind the A+ professions in my opinion. Still extremely good though. First one I'm putting is Tier's Kasi Artist. TK is really good. With the accuracy changes, COB is fantastic. It's still amazing. You're insanely tanky. I believe some of their damage got buffed, like combo attack I'm pretty sure got a damage buff, and now their dizzy attack, they have they can apply a dizzy on people, and now that gives 20% mind regen as well as some like minus defenses, I believe, which is really good. Mind regen, or you know, nerfing their mind regen is really, really big. Like that's great. So I think that's a really big buff for TK. And then obviously power boost is really good. Like they get 500 more HP than other people. And Hone COB is still, or even Master COB is great, but Hone COB is just fantastic. So I think TK is in a great spot. The reason I'm putting it A- as opposed to higher is because I think Master TK is kind of meh. All you really need is Hone COB, and then you can put your points elsewhere. But Master TK is still fine. Like I said, still very tanky. The dizzy attack is great. Combo attack damage being buffed. You have more HP. You have more defense. It's in a solid spot. So you can do a lot of cool builds with Master TK. Next I'm going to put is Doctor. Doctor is great now because now with, you know, all the debuffs and states and the emphasis on that, doctors have a lot more utility in a fight because they can be cleansing with stabilizers, and they're just like, they're elemental cleanses to help keep the team up and keep these debuffs off of people. So doctors got a lot of value in this patch. They also have more healing potency at Master, similar to Combat Medic, so they are able to heal for a lot more, which is really good. Doctors are doing insane single target heals. Like they're hitting like excuse me, like 3k plus back to shots and stuff. Like it's insane. They're bonkers. Another downside of Doc though is all their healing is single target, so they're really good for keeping individual people alive, but again, CM is always going to be the best for group healing. But yeah, so yeah, stabilizers is great for Doc. The healing potency is great, and just cleanses being more valuable in general is just fantastic. So yeah, healing builds right now are very strong in my opinion. They're very, 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 very helpful. I know we have 1 or 2 players in my guild that play like full medic healing builds, like Doctor, CM stuff, and I know the imps are a little jealous of it. It's really, really nice having those builds around. But I still put it A- tier because, like I said, their healing is all single target, and it's a lot of points to be Master Doc when you could put it into maybe something else. But it's still very good. Still very, very, very good. Next, in the A- tier, I want to put, yeah, I'll put Berserker or Swordsman. I think Berserker, I mean, I'm tempted actually to put it B tier, but I think I'm still going to put it A- solely because Rose is still playing it. My issue with Berserker is it's really all you get out of it. From what I have experienced and from what I have discussed with other melees, all you really get out of it is like advanced armor break, which is really good. But I feel like you can get advanced armor break and then dip into another profession that's more useful, like like fencer or like pikeman or something. I feel like going Master Berserker is kind of it's kind of whatever. I mean, it does a lot of damage. It has big, bursty, big hits. But I don't know. I feel like Berserker is really just there to armor break people and then try to get a big bonk on their head with a melee weapon, or a big Tyranny weapon. And I feel, like I said, I feel like you just get the advanced armor break box, maybe a second tree or a second line of Berserker, and then pick up pikes or fencer or something. So, I mean, it's still very good. Advanced armor break is fantastic, and Berserker does a lot of damage, but I definitely don't think it's nearly as strong as these other 3 melee. I definitely think of the 4 melee, personally, I think it's the weakest in the kind of meta right now, for group PvP at least. Next, I'm going to put Rifleman. I'm actually going to put Rifleman right above Berserker. Actually going to put Doc right above TK as well. I think Doc is slightly better than TK. And I think Rifleman's actually better than TK as well. So Rifleman is pretty good. Snipe got buffed, so now it has armor pen, 10% armor pen. So you know, you have like Rifleman Pistoliers or like Rifleman Bounty Hunters in the back, like sniping people, getting big fat hits. Snipe does a lot of damage now. It's great. Startle shot's obviously still a good, you know, it's a high damage silence. Less duration as disarm, but it's still really a good silence. Aim, if you're able to like get aim off, it has a long wind up, but it basically makes you like not miss your shots at all. It just gives you so much accuracy, it's insane. But again, it has a long like wind up to it, so yeah, aim is pretty good. So I mean, I think Rifleman's fine. It's the reason I still put it A- tier is because in my opinion, all you really get from Rifleman is the ability to use rifles with another profession. You know what I mean? So like when you go Rifleman, I feel like you go Rifleman so you can like get Snipe, because Snipe's a good, you know, high damaging ability, but you're really just going for the rifle skill mod so that you can use the rifle with like Pistolier or, you know, Squad Leader or BH, you know what I mean, to use the abilities of those other professions. Because Rifleman's always kind of had this problem of like, it's kind of like a skill mod bitch. You go Rifleman, or I'm sorry, I've been saying it wrong. Sniper. You go Sniper, Rifleman, whatever you want to call it, in order to get the good skill mods for you to be able to use a rifle with something else. So, being primarily a Rifleman or a Sniper is kind of whatever. It's kind of meh, but it does have really fantastic skill mods for a rifle, and rifles are the best range weapons in the game right now, in my opinion. I personally believe that of all the regular range weapons, rifles are the best. Between like carbines, pistols, rifles are the best. Heavy weapons are kind of their own separate thing, but between the big 3, rifles are hands down the best weapons right now, in my opinion. So now we're going to move on to B tier, and I'm going to put Carbineer. I don't know if people agree or disagree with this, but I barely see any Master Carbineers at all right now, or just barely any people using carbines in general. I mean, I just think carbines are kind of a meh weapon. The Carbineer still has its uses though. Scattershot's still a very good AoE. Suppressive fire is still good for like pushing. Has really good pushing power. Actually, I think very underrated pushing power. It's still got a knockdown, still got a slow. The single target damage is okay. The thing about carbs is like the damage is like solid. Like it's not bad damage, but it's not like, oh my god, like this damage is insane. It's not like a snipe or like commander damage or like BH damage. I mean, scatter, like I said, scatter shot's really good, but it does have that reduced range, which kind of sucks. It just doesn't. The biggest downside of Carbineer is that, like, it doesn't really have any states or debuffs. You know, I mean, it has a slow, it has a knockdown, it has suppressive fire, which are all they're like cool, but they're not like great. You know, I mean, suppressive fire is very good, but that's about it, in my opinion. I don't think there's. I mean, their slow is cool, but it's single target. Their knockdowns are cool, but you're not going to get a knockdown with commandos. You know, knocking people down with rocket launchers constantly. So I mean, they have some decent AoE damage with full auto area and scatter shot, but that's about it, really. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's not viable, and in fact, I think Carbineer is very viable, and some builds using Carbineer I think are very meta. But Carbineer as like a main profession, I just think it's kind of in a very mid-tier spot right now. I would definitely say it's like the most mid-tier of all the professions. Most of these professions are pretty good right now, but Carbineer definitely I think is in the middle of the pack. So last is Creature Handler. Creature Handler is not B tier, not C tier. I'm gonna put Creature Handler in D tier. I've held this opinion for a long time, but in group PvP, Creature Handler is just kind of dead weight. The pets die too fast, and you lose so many stats because you have to put so many points into Creature Handler, and there's just not really any pets that can A, live long enough, and B, provide utility to the group to make it worthwhile. The damage is okay, but yeah, like I said, when the pets die too fast, like the pets will die almost instantly. So that's just something to keep in mind. Player damage has been reduced, but pets still take a load of damage. So CH, I don't think it's in a great spot for group PvP. And solo PvP, just solo anything, CH is fantastic. But, well, fantastic-ish. I keep hearing from PvE creature handlers that it's like, these are like the end times for creature handlers or something. But I don't know. All I know is that like CHBH can still 1v1 people just fine. And it's still annoying as hell to duel. So, but for group PvP, CH, it doesn't cut it in my opinion. It's just, yeah, don't play CH. So yeah, so that's all the professions. I don't really have much else to say about any of these. I hope that the topics and ideas that I talked about today make sense to you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please ask in the comment section below. I'll try to get back to you as best I can. But I'll try to make some more videos talking more in depth about each of the different roles and professions in 1.1 because this is a huge patch for PvP, one of the biggest, probably the biggest, like I said, I've ever seen. So yeah, I'll get working on that, and until then, I hope you all have a great day, and may the force be with you.